Did India's first nuclear submarine sink because they forgot to close the hatch? This mocking headline flooded Chinese websites back in 2017. That year, India's nuclear submarine, INS Arihant, reportedly took on water because of an improper closed hatch, and repairs took 10 months. Chinese media were amused, with mockery and sarcasm everywhere. But just a few years later, China's own Type 041 mini-nuclear submarine reportedly sank due to a similar mistake, an unsecured hatch. Indian media could now publish a similar headline suggests China's first domestic mini-nuclear submarine sank because they forgot to close the hatch. Can it still be used? In July 2024, a post on Platform X gained attention. Satellite images showed 4 large floating cranes racing to Wuhan's Wuchang Shipbuilding Industry Group on the Yangtze River for a salvage operation. By September, the Wall Street Journal revealed the truth. The vessel that sank was a new mini-nuclear submarine, the Type 041 Zhou-class, which had gone down on June 13. In late October, the Washington Times shared an even bigger story, claiming the cause of the sinking was an unsecured hatch, causing the submarine to sink directly in the shipyard during its launch. Adding to the embarrassment, reports noted that the submarine had a hybrid propulsion system, a small nuclear reactor combined with a diesel engine. China hoped this design would give it a competitive edge by reviving mini-nuclear submarine technology that the West abandoned years ago. A U.S. Department of Defense official did not hold back, remarking, "They goofed." The single comment turned China's planned curve overtake into what looked like a curve crash. So far, Chinese authorities have stayed silent on the incident, and they likely won't comment, especially given that the submarine had a new design with advanced and possibly unique features. One online commenter wrote, "China mocked India for forgetting to close a hatch, but karma came back fast." Another military enthusiast noted, "Seeing those cranes working along the river, it's surprising they're pulling up their own nuclear submarine. Sinking in the Yangtze, that's embarrassing. I wonder how the little pings will explain this." Others questioned, wasn't this supposed to be a curve overtake? But if you can't even close the hatch, you're bound to be thrown off course. Reports say that, with the help of 4 cranes, the submarine was salvaged. But restoring it for service won't be easy. Its interior is likely flooded, which means replacing all electronic systems and equipment. Senior researcher at the Heritage Foundation, retired U.S. Navy nuclear submarine officer Brent Sadler told the Wall Street Journal, "The sinking of a new nuclear sub that was produced at a new yard will slow China's plans to grow its nuclear submarine fleet. This is significant." The Type 041 submarine's development has been a strange saga. In 2017, a user on China's military forum SuperCamp excitedly claimed that China was secretly developing a mini-nuclear submarine, even sharing a blurry design sketch. Years passed with scattered news, and people only heard rumors but saw nothing. Not until March 2024 did an American satellite capture a clear image. In a shipyard dock along the Yangtze River in Wuhan, a submarine with an X-shaped rudder was spotted. Western military experts speculated about this new model since previous Chinese nuclear submarines used a cross-shaped rudder. Then, on April 24, both NetEase and Sohu published articles disclosing that the Type 041 nuclear submarine was under construction in Wuhan. Based on the latest images, Chinese media reported, citing the Wall Street Journal and U.S. Defense Department officials, confirming that China's mini-nuclear submarine, the Type 041, was indeed under construction in Wuhan. The Wall Street Journal quoted 2 U.S. Department of Defense officials saying that this incident represents a major setback for China's priority weapons development. It not only exposed issues with the Chinese Navy's training standards and equipment quality, but also revealed long-standing problems with accountability and corruption in the Chinese military's defense industry. U.S. military analyst Tom Shugart pointed out that a submarine's hatch is normally above the waterline. This incident probably happened when adjusting draft and trim at the shipyard, where a hatch that should have been above water made contact with the surface. It took on water and sank completely. A retired Indian Navy officer analyzed, even during construction, this kind of accident should not happen. The team building a new nuclear submarine is chosen from top technical experts, and every phase must undergo strict checks. Especially at critical points like launch, watertight integrity checks are basic. If these simple steps are missed, it's not just human error, but a failure in the construction system. Western countries faced similar mistakes decades ago. In 1939, the British submarine HMS Thetis sank after its torpedo tube's inner and outer doors opened at once, submerging the entire vessel. This tragedy forced Britain to redesign submarine hatch systems, laying the foundation for modern submarine standards. In 1969, the U.S. nuclear submarine USS Guerrero sank during maintenance when two independent teams flooded the bow and stern at the same time, causing the submarine to lose balance and capsize. Following this incident, Congress immediately formed a committee to overhaul submarine construction and operational procedures. However, after this nuclear submarine accident, China has chosen to stay silent, and Chinese media have not reported a word. The Wall Street Journal said this event is a major setback for the Chinese Navy, casting doubt on its industrial processes, training, and ambitions. China's attempt to cover up the incident is unsurprising. According to a NetEase report from December 2022, Wuchang Shipbuilding Industry Group started moving from downtown Wuhan to the Xinzhou Shuangliu base around that time. When the Type 041 nuclear submarine sank in June 2024, the new base had only been in use for a year and a half. This suggests that the submarine was likely rushed into construction at the new facility. The first issue from the relocation was confusion in managing personnel. Skilled workers at the shipyard now faced over an hour's commute each way to return home to Wuchang's city center. Travel times doubled during rush hour. Many senior employees started staggering their shifts to avoid the busiest times, but this increased the risk of errors during shift changes. Not only that, several skilled workers couldn't endure the long commute and left for companies with better conditions. Building the first mini-nuclear submarine left no room for mistakes, but there weren't enough experienced staff available. Under pressure to meet deadlines, critical safety checks might have been rushed or even skipped altogether. Leaving the hatch unsecured, a basic mistake, was almost inevitable under these conditions. The Type 041 nuclear submarine's appearance surprised Western experts. China's nuclear submarines were usually named with a 09 prefix, with odd-numbered models for attack submarines, like 091 or 093, and even numbers for strategic submarines, like 092 and 094. These main submarines are large, with the smallest model, the 093B, measuring 110 meters long and displacing over 7,200 tons, close to the size of a 20-car train. But the newly revealed Type 041 is only 83 meters long and has a displacement of just over 3,000 tons, only 7 meters longer than the Type 039C conventional submarine, and half the size of the 093B. Why has China focused on these smaller submarines? The reason lies in the shallow waters of the West Pacific continental shelf. East of the Yangtze River estuary, within a 200 nautical mile range, the average water depth is just 70 meters, making it difficult for large nuclear submarines to maneuver effectively. According to the South China Morning Post, a 093B nuclear submarine had to surface during a 2019 East China Sea exercise due to shallow water, exposing it instantly to detection by opposing force anti-submarine aircraft. China does have smaller Type 039C conventional submarines that work well in shallow waters, but these need to surface every 4 to 5 days for diesel engine ventilation during high-speed operations. Learning from this, China accelerated development of the Type 041. The idea was to use these smaller nuclear submarines in a wolf pack tactic for fighting in shallow waters. This shows China's push for an edge in asymmetric warfare and a focus on boosting combat readiness close to its shores. On October 2nd, the U.S. defense news site The War Zone reported that the Type 041 Zhou-class submarine is equipped with a diesel engine and a small nuclear reactor to supply power. Chinese military analyst Rick Fisher told the Washington Times that back in 2017, a retired senior Chinese general announced plan to develop a low-power, low-pressure nuclear reactor. This reactor would be small enough to serve as an auxiliary engine for conventional submarines. A former U.S. Navy admiral noted that this reactor resembles a concept the Soviet Union tested in the late 1980s on a 651 class Juliet cruise missile submarine. The reactor would charge lithium-ion batteries intermittently, powering the submarine at high speeds or during extended missions. Reports suggest that the small nuclear reactor on the Type 041 might be a miniature version of the ACP-100, a civilian small modular reactor. This setup would require the reactor to run in a small space while delivering a high output of several kilowatts to ensure the Type 041's combat abilities. But challenges quickly arose. Fitting this reactor into the compact submarine space caused rapid core wear, reducing its lifespan from the expected 7 to 10 years to just 2 years. Replacing the core every 2 years by opening up the entire vessel raises serious concerns about the submarine's long-term usability. This problem was only the beginning. When the nuclear reactor had to shift quickly from low to high power, the original natural circulation cooling system couldn't keep up, sharply reducing cooling efficiency. Engineers had to add forced cooling, which introduced extra noise and new malfunctions. This highlights why Western navies have avoided this technology route altogether. In 2000, the U.S. explored small-power thermionic reactors, but only for deep-sea research at low speeds of around 5 knots. France chose medium-sized nuclear submarines, balancing performance and cost, while Japan focused on conventional AIP, air-independent propulsion, submarines for coastal defense. These navies understood that stable technology was more reliable for deep-sea missions than risky curve overtakes in the arms race. Beyond technical stability, another issue has surfaced. Details about the accident were accurately reported twice by U.S. media, first in September, confirming the submarine's nuclear propulsion, and then in late October, revealing the cause as an unsecured hatch. The accuracy of these details suggests that the U.S. intelligence has effective sources within China's Navy. This could impact any major military action planned by China, as the U.S. might be aware in advance. It's notable that Wuhan is China's center for submarine research, bringing together key nuclear submarine development teams. The 701 Institute oversees general nuclear submarine design, the 719 Institute handles detailed submarine design, and the 105 Institute specializes in nuclear power research. Wuchang Shipbuilding focuses on small submarine construction, creating a comprehensive R&D system with these research institutes. Despite the strong setup, a basic mistake still happened. Could similar failures affect other products from Wuchang, like the 054A frigate, 071 landing ship, and 075 amphibious assault ship? One military expert noted that it may be unrealistic for China's nuclear submarines to match the levels of the U.S. and Japanese navies. Overseas military bloggers gave a clear judgment on the Type 041's technology. The Type 041 is like a BYD underwater. Unlike other major weapon systems, China's submarine fleet hasn't expanded significantly in the last 10 to 12 years. However, a U.S. Defense Department official said that new, more lethal submarines are gradually replacing older models. For example, the diesel-powered Zhou-class attack submarines are being replaced by more advanced Yuan-class submarines, which have air-independent propulsion for longer underwater endurance and carry more weapons. So far, China's naval submarine operations are mostly limited to the Pacific. Chinese officials noted that since last year, China hasn't deployed submarines to the Indian Ocean. Submarines and warships remain near the coast and don't venture far offshore. While the unsecured hatch incident was still making headlines, China's Navy faced another problem, this time in Guangzhou. Recent satellite images show that the Longxue Island shipyard in Guangzhou is rapidly constructing a mysterious vessel with a full-length deck around 200 meters long, about 60% the size of a typical aircraft carrier. The design appears to be inspired by the UK's Queen Elizabeth-class carriers, but it also includes a docking bay for amphibious landings. Western military experts generally agree that this ship is likely a drone carrier. Its 200-meter flat deck would be suitable for launching large drones like the Wing Lung or WZ-8. Many online sources support this view, suggesting it fits China's nearshore combat needs. This 10,000, 20,000-ton vessel could carry 6 to 8 helicopters and a similar number of drones, allowing for anti-submarine, patrol, and reconnaissance missions. The downside is that this mini carrier has no self-defense capabilities, relying entirely on escort ships. This approach puts more pressure on China's already limited supply of destroyers and frigates, requiring further investment in escorts. This may be a case of cost-cutting gone wrong. China's choice to build a smaller carrier instead of a large vessel shows some reluctance. Large ships are impressive, but need complex operations and costly maintenance. A single 100,000-ton aircraft carrier breaking down could cripple the fleet's combat power. Switching to smaller carriers is a practical compromise. These smaller drone carriers are easier to mass produce under budget constraints and can quickly boost fleet strength. Interestingly, construction is taking place at the Guangzhou shipyard rather than the usual sites in Dalian or Shanghai. This seems tailored to the South China Sea. Large carriers are valuable assets, and losing one to U.S. attacks would be a heavy blow, so smaller carriers serve as a more affordable backup option. The recent activity in the Guangzhou shipyard suggests preparations for possible conflict. Previously focused on civilian ships, the yard has shifted to military production, even building mini carriers. This signals China's preparation for potential South China Sea conflicts. One online commander joked, "If China can't even close the hatch on a nuclear submarine, taking a mini carrier to the South China Sea might just be another public embarrassment." It seems that China's curve overtakes in military technology have already turned to curve crashes in the minds of the Chinese public. Repeated incidents suggest China's defense industry might be more known for its spectacular failures than its technological breakthroughs.